Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Cast episode 131. I'm Steve Tudor.
I'm Andy Lewis.
I'm Sid Gill.
And I'm Rory Summers. And I seem to be referred to as Hermione quite frequently now, and not just by you guys.
I think it's going to stick.
It is going to stick. It has now stuck.
People stopped me at the expo and actually referred to you as Hermione.
Yeah.
And me as well. One guy was like, where's Hermione?
It's quite shocking. So.
Yeah. You're now the official ginger girl of the group.
Yeah. Although I also noticed on these show notes I'm referred to as Ringo at one point, and I'm not sure
what's that
what
about,
the reference about.
That made me laugh, and I was trying to work out what it was, because it's like some kind of in-joke that I've missed.
No, it was just, I was listing people's names one after each other, and it just, there's four of us, and I got to the end and started R, and just, my brain just went Ringo.
Right, okay, great.
Paul, John, whatever his name, and Ringo. Yeah, I was thinking, why? Is Rory a shit drummer or something? What's that brilliant quote? I think it was from McCartney. It might have been Lennon when they're being interviewed. He says, "So apparently Ringo's not the best drummer in the country or the world." And he turned around and said, "Ringo's not even the best drummer in the Beatles."
So today we will be talking about UK Games Expo 2023. Now, I know we've covered this in our live show, which we did put an episode on previously. I encourage everyone to go look at it. Go look at it. Go listen to it even.
Look at it, but don't listen to it.
Well, yeah. Go listen to it, because I actually think, for once, sounds quite good.
It does.
I think it went really, really well, the entire episode. So
I think so. We've had a lot of positive feedback, actually. So I think that was very nice. We felt good afterwards. Obviously, our audience apparently felt good as well. So, we'll be happy to do it again next year, UK Games Expo.
Yeah. A big shout out to the UK Games Expo and Millie for inviting us on to do that and providing all that equipment. And, of course, our sound engineer.
Yes, it wouldn't have happened at all without Mr. Paul Smith.
Without
Penfold.
Mr. A.K.A. Penfold. Yeah. Thank you,
Got all
Paul.
the mics working, and then the sound engineer disappeared out of the room, having failed to make the microphones work, so we had to get an audience member, thankfully a sound engineer, to basically stand by, poke a few buttons, right, worked it out, go, while it's still working, go.
I've still no idea what happened. It was working, our engineer walked out, and then it wasn't working. It was like, what? Was there a button I was supposed to press that you haven't told me? Anyway, it got fixed due to Paul. And thank you very, very, very much for that, because otherwise we wouldn't have the recording at all, and we'd just be shouting across the room, which we probably did anyway, but there you go.
Which after a few beers happens anyway.
I got to admit, I really was worried about the potential sound quality being pants.
Yes.
Because we've recorded live before, and it has been
rough,
awful. In all honesty,
Yes.
I think there's an aircon episode where I think we recorded. I got home and listened to it, and it didn't matter what I did, I couldn't improve it. I just went,
it's because we were all sat right next to each other with lapel mics, I think, and because they aren't directional, they'll just pick up any old shite. They picked up the entire room and all four of us on every mic, so there were different volume levels on each mic. If you'd have synced them up perfectly, it might have worked, but.
Yes.
Who's got time for that?
No, not me. I just deleted it and carried on with my life.
Yes. Draw a veil over it. Never speak of this again.
Today, we will be talking about UK Games Expo, what we saw, what we did. We'll have a little bit of overlap with what we said at the live show, but I still highly recommend you go listen to it, because our thoughts are fresh and lots of interesting questions from the audience.
Yes.
Of course, the live show only considered our first day at the expo. Whereas now we've done all 3 days. So
Now, they've released the attendance figures provisionally, apparently, for Expo, and it's 52,000 total visitors and 32,000 unique visitors.
That is a lot of
the entire
people.
Weekend.
Were most of those on Saturday? Because it certainly felt like it.
It definitely felt like it, didn't it? Yeah.
Saturday was rammed. So busy. Friday was very good. Sunday was really quiet, but like pleasantly quiet. You could move around, you could sit down at demos, you could interact with people and not be in the way. It wasn't bollock swelteringly hot, unlike this evening, but it was good. But yeah, Saturday was very, very, very busy.
Yeah, I regret not going on Sunday now. I wish I'd been there on Sunday.
Yeah, it was good. Actually, played quite a few games.
Saturday was hard.
See, Sunday, I need to take a little note after Mr. Summers' book here, because I didn't organise anything for Sunday, and I felt like a lost lamb. I seemed to just wander around aimlessly. Now, bizarrely, I did actually see loads of things that I'd somehow missed in 2 previous whole days, but I didn't have anything booked, didn't have anything sorted. And there was a few stands. I mean, me and Sid had this problem on Saturday, where you go and go, oh, you've got 2 demo tables. Let's have a go. Apex Legends, for instance. I'd heard there were 4 Apex Legends tables before the expo. That's what we mentioned on our preview podcast. We get there, they've got 2 tables, and they had 2 pre-booked slots for a demo, and that was it.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. And there was a few games like that where we couldn't get onto because we hadn't booked a slot like 3 weeks previously. And it's just a bit infuriating, that was.
I had that problem when I went to see Distilled. I think it was on the Saturday.
Same here.
Actually, but
Yeah,
the
I
Sunday.
couldn't
But yeah,
get
I went
onto
to
Distilled.
No. Saturday or Sunday was just completely rammed, so I ended up having another talk through, which was basically the same thing we had on Thursday night.
Yeah, I had a really detailed walkthrough with the developer, Richard, I think his name was. And it looks like a brilliant game, and I really, really want to try it, but just couldn't get on a demo table.
It's interesting you say that, because Sid and I had a bit of a chat, having gone through the old chinwag with I think it was Dan. I think it was at the on the Thursday night. The American chap. It might be Rich. I've got names.
Dave Beck is the designer.
Dave. There you go. Well,
I'm sure it's Dave.
Sid and I we went through it. We were quite keen on it. Being aged spirit drinkers ourselves. And I say aged in both senses. The spirit and ourselves are both aged. And we walked away thinking, yeah, it's going to be all right. But we haven't played it, so we can't really say.
We haven't played it. We should play it.
Yeah.
But there's already little things I know are going to irritate my sense of calm and balance.
I think it's the same things that have irritated me.
Yeah, like,
really?
There's no potatoes. How can you make vodka out of grain? There's no potatoes. That upsets me. That just fundamentally annoys me. I understand why it's done. The game must be simple and straightforward to play. But there's no potatoes. You can't make vodka without potatoes.
It's true. And also,
you can make vodka with grain, but you can also make gin with potatoes.
Yes.
Yeah, so there should be potatoes. My point being, there should be potatoes in that game.
But also, I noticed you can have more than one type of grain in whiskey. No, you can't.
I think you guys might want a more detailed thing going on.
I think we will.
It's very similar to the argument with Zolkin. You know, that first step on whatever wheel is, and it's fish and not grain, not corn.
Yeah, I would see when I'm teaching it now. I don't refer to it as grain. I refer to it as food.
Exactly,
that way, it's all encompassing.
So I think it's yes. You've got like on Zolkin, you've got fish and then you've got corn. In Distilled, you've just got primary ingredient and other stuff. So where it is grain, yeah, I know it doesn't. But I think you need to give them some leeway there. But you want
absolutely no quarter given.
In which case, you want a more detail. You want a game that's more about making whiskey.
I want the game that I should be designing 5 years ago and haven't pulled my thumb up my arse and done yet. That's what I need to do, Rory.
Yeah.
Do you know what actually put me off about Distilled?
The price?
Rory's frowning at me like, how dare you say something negative again? And Andy's right. The price.
Yeah, it seems a heck of a price tag for a game.
I think it was £85 at the Expo.
Yeah, it was.
Which I thought
for the base game.
A lot of money for that kind of game of what was in the box. Now, I'm not privy to production values and how much it's cost to make it, but it felt at £50. I think I might have bought a copy.
Yeah.
At £85, I was like,
Yeah, I was tempted to buy it for that reason, Steve, thinking, you know what, we haven't got time to play it. 50 quid I can probably punt on it, and if I don't like it I can sell it on, and I don't really mind losing £5-10, but at 85 quid that's way beyond punt territory, so no.
Yeah, see, I did that with a different game. Yeah, I did not get a demo of Star Wars Shatterpoint, but I had a copy under my arm before 10:30 on Friday morning.
Nice.
Now, Mr. Tudor, let's be honest, you'd already bought that a week before you turned up at the Expo.
Mentally,
you were there. You had pound notes with Shatterpoint written on them, ready to hand over to the man on the other side of the table.
Pound notes? This is Scotland in 1996.
Mate, there's nothing wrong with a green pound note, right? They're special.
It's legal tender.
Special, yeah.
It makes you feel like such a rich man when you have a wad of £1 notes.
It's also a wallet full of disappointment because when you go to hand one over and the barman goes, "No, that's not a fiver," you go, "Oh no," you feel instantly poorer.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster.
But I did the same. I got myself an Expo launch, a game that was going to be at the Expo, and I bought it a week before. I bought Oros. I was so excited for it, I just couldn't wait any longer for the Expo. I just had to buy it. Well, I bought that on the Wednesday.
I am also guilty of buying something I'd bought pretty much 2 years ago, but we'll get to that.
That's interesting.
I do have some good news as well. Keen listeners will know that last year at the Expo, I think 3 out of 4 of us managed to get Korean fried chicken sauce down our T-shirt. Oh, it was 2 out of 4.
No, Andy, go back and listen to the bloody episode. Go back and listen to the episode.
You did get it on you
on
well.
the Sunday.
No, I did
when those
not.
two weren't.
Yeah, you did.
Bloody did.
Yeah, you did.
We were having
Lies.
No, you got
I'm now going to have to edit this in and put the clip in from last year, aren't I?
You and I, we went and had lunch together on the Sunday, and we both got cake as well. I've got a photo of us eating cake, and then moments after the photo, Laura took the photo. You got it all down you.
Oh, that's cake, not Korean chicken. That's a very different. That's a different
still
kettle
food.
of fish.
Still food. You got
It
down
brushes off. It doesn't stick. It brushes off. You don't have to put your T-shirt in the wash straight away like these two mucky bastards.
Now, I will leave it to your own good consciences. I took a spare T-shirt with me this year.
Just spat my drink over the bloody monitor. I need to go get some tissue, won't it?
I did not spill any food on me in the Expo. However, on the Thursday morning, I was wearing my Expo T-shirt, ready for the press preview, having a nice relaxing morning because I'd taken the day off in preparation. Nice cup of coffee. Henry's relaxing on my lap, snoozing, his head's down. Amanda's upstairs and bangs the door. Henry leapt off my lap. And the coffee went under the air.
Oh dear!
And landed all over my UK game, my polyhedron glider T-shirt, and all over my jeans.
Nice.
So I didn't spill food on them beforehand, but I did spill half a cup of coffee on them, and they went straight in the wash on an express wash, so I could still wear them in time for the Expo in the evening because I didn't have any other clean jeans either.
It's probably hot enough to dry them as well outside.
Oh yeah, it was.
It was a hot weekend.
Yes, it was warm in that building.
I didn't think it was too uncomfortable though. I thought it was just warm. Like considered now, I mean it's like 28 degrees outside still now, and I'm just sweating buckets.
Yes.
But I didn't think it was too bad. I thought it was
I
just
agree.
right.
Still had the aircon up too high in Hall 2. Hall 2 was still chilly.
Really?
I found Hall 2 to be a little bit too chilly.
That sounds like such a Hermione thing to say.
Oh dear.
Anyway,
we have also purchased our miniatures for our painting competition.
To answer the question we were asked during the live podcast, we have now decided on the models.
Yes. As per usual, I wish I'd actually bought more models from Blue Giants. We bought them from Blue Giants, and we've bought the Minotaur Squad, which is actually 3 miniatures.
Because we're gluttons for punishment.
Well, this is it. We now need to come up with some kind of ground rule about what we're doing. Are we painting all 3? Are we just painting 1? Are we painting a particular one? Are we painting as many as we want and pick the best one?
Oof.
Are we putting them on a gaming base? Are we putting them on a display base?
Don't say the diorama word. I'm not doing a diorama.
Well, I don't need to now. You've just done it.
I think you should paint each one in a different style.
Different
And
style.
I think our listeners should pick the styles.
Yeah, no, hang on. Whoa. Whilst I think it's a good idea, that's assuming that the 3 of us have enough talent to be able to do that.
No, it's not
and
that.
we absolutely don't.
Yeah, no,
It needs to be a competition. It needs to separate each of you into areas that you're good at, areas you're not so good at.
But even I don't have an airbrush. I'm one of the 3 of us that doesn't have so I can't do an airbrush model. And I'm not prepared to drop the 500 quid I need to paint one model.
I've got an airbrush, and I can't do an airbrush model either.
So no, that is going out of the window. You are outvoted 3-1 there, Mr. Gill.
Well, you see, I keep coming up with these good ideas and you keep shooting me down. Next year, I'm going to canvass the masses beforehand and I'm going to set all the rules up and I'm going to put it out there. One of you is going to put it out there because I can't understand social media. And we'll do it ahead of time.
It relies on factors that do not exist. That's the problem with that suggestion.
It doesn't stop it being a good suggestion.
I'm well up for a fixed palette.
We see the instant reaction from Beard's teeth there.
When you say fixed palette, what do you mean? Like you can only use paints from this set?
We would agree on a number of paints, and we have to use only those paints.
Yeah.
We could do what Sorastro did with the Lord of the Rings minis and just stick to the Vallejo basic set.
No. You pick a number of colours that you need. It's like Rally. You can have the same engine, and you have to have the same chassis.
That's what I mean.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
It's literally 16 paints.
Oh, okay.
It's got 16, and it's basically got your 3 primaries, your 6 secondaries, a couple of metallics, black and white.
There you go then.
I think it's like a bargain on Amazon as well.
It is.
Amazon.
It really, I mean, I've got it. I'm sure you've got it. But yes, it's about 25 quid.
I think I bought that paint set for the kids actually for Christmas to paint their minis. So I've got.
There you go.
I've got a relatively new one. Yeah. All right. Okay. It sounds like we've got an agreement then, guys.
Hang on. Is that the Vallejo game colour or Vallejo colour?
I'd say model colour. The white labels, not the game colours.
Model colour.
Model colour.
Right.
The ones that look like they were sort of printed in the 70s.
Yes, in like a green box, isn't it?
I've got game colour. Okay, well, fair enough.
So we've decided on palette. We need to decide what to do with them now, but we'll have to do that as the weeks unfold.
And we're setting our deadline for end of November, are we, gents?
Let's say yes.
End of November, so that we can meet up in December, which is a very busy month because we've got 2 very special birthdays.
I'm going to say maybe end of October then.
Yeah.
End of October.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Photo shoot in November and then post on social media between then and the end of the year.
So we do the end. Okay, very brilliant. Okay. End of October.
We could announce it, the winner, on our end of year show.
Yeah, like we did
That's
last
the plan. That's exactly what I mean. Yeah, that's the plan. Yes.
And we're not sharing any progress photos between us or with the the masses. All right.
No.
Same. All right, okay. Cool.
He says, having shared progress photos the other night about putting all full of goop and together.
There's no colour being attached. It's fine.
Actually, that was a friendly heads up for you both. In fact, it's like they are a bastard to prep.
Done it.
I've gone through the pain. So yeah.
All done.
Did you get a load of flash all over them?
I got a lot of flash.
Yeah, the mold lines on them are horrendous.
And I filled all the gaps today, so these are ready for priming tomorrow.
Good man. Anyway, right, more on that in 6 months' time when none of us have done it.
So the last week of October, you'll all be rushing to Amazon to buy your paint set.
That's all we'll be doing in October.
Okay.
Okay. I think we should talk about some games, what we played. So, you're first on the list, Tudor. You're not getting out of it this time. You were last at the live ones. You can go first this time.
Bloody hell. Right, okay. I don't know how much to repeat from what we did on actually Friday and what we talked about at the live show. I still think that one of the best games I saw was Fateforge Chronicles of Kaan. Kaan! I just, there was something about that game, it just clicked really nicely. So if you didn't listen to the live show, it's a dungeon crawler game, app driven. I'd say very typical fantasy genre. It's actually based on a D&D 5e world that were made by a French RPG publisher.
I didn't realise that.
I've got the PDF of it somewhere, which is mostly very generic fantasy kind of setting. And the way the game works is you roll dice behind the screen and you can re-roll misses, and those dice give you your actions for the round, and you've got a very tight timeline in which to do things. So I think you've got, like the demo we played, you've got three turns to go grab the boss and beat the boss and get the prisoner and get them out. And it was doable, and it felt like we did it by the skin of our teeth. Now the thing is, whether that's designed perfectly as a demo game to make you feel like you've done it, I don't know, but...
It was a tutorial.
It was a tutorial, yeah. But if you can imagine, say, we've all been through the very first mission of Gloomhaven and felt depressed. I came away from this thinking, okay, we got through it by the skin of our teeth, which means we just about got it right, which means there's room for improvement, but it's at least doable.
Yeah. It's interesting you compare it to Gloomhaven as well, because I think that's what a lot of people are going to compare it to. And it is quite a bit different.
So not really comparable at all then?
Well, no, but it's natural to compare it as a dungeon crawler on the table. It looks Gloomhaven-y. You know, it's that kind of style of game. But the way you play the combat, I thought was really, really different. Really
it was so quick. It was so dynamic.
Refreshingly different. It was so quick. There was no faff. There was no rolls for damage and all that kind of nonsense. It was, if you do an attack, you hit the guy, end of discussion, you move on.
Yeah, it was so fluid.
It was so sweet, yeah.
And I think that's going to allow, because those combat encounters are story forming. Like for us, the demo was to rescue, we had to protect, we had to meet our contact who was a merchant, who was a spy, who had been uncovered, and we needed to get to them and protect them and get them out of there. So that combat was just like, that's the combat, so we can get back to the story really quickly. But that combat was still fun. It was still tense, but it was quick because actually we want to progress with the story. We want to progress with the campaign. We want to get back to the map and the book and all that stuff. And the combat didn't slow that down. Really, really good game. I enjoyed that a lot.
I enjoyed that. Yeah, definitely.
I must admit, I have been eyeing up the Game Found page, hovering over that purchase button. Haven't quite clicked it yet, mainly because I spent too much money at Expo, but I am hovering over it.
It's a Kickstarter, isn't it?
It was a Kickstarter. The Kickstarter finished ages ago. You can now back the
late pledge
on Game Found.
On Game Found.
Oh, on Game Found.
If you're going to do that, Steve, I don't need to. All I need to do is gently nudge you over the edge. So I shall be working on that for the next week or so.
I'm well up for playing this game and doing the campaign because I think, given the speed at which the demo went, we could actually get through quite a chunk of the story, even if we just played once a month. I think we could box that off quite quickly. Get together once a month, and the first game we play is Fateforge. Do a couple of missions, play that for 2 hours, pack it away, and then move on to the next game. And I think that could be.
So we could do that between now and October, and then in a mad panic we paint the miniatures. Right, got you. Done. Whilst you lot were doing that, I was having my ear bent by Mr. David Turksey, Big Davey T, who then interrupted your game as well. He's quite good at that, Mr. Big Davey T. It was a good conversation, having a chat with him. He told us all off for not playing his game.
Yes, indeed. He
did, and I had a quick chat with him about what I played at Aircon. I said, "Are you demoing Brassage?" That's not the name of it, but it's the name I've given it to him, and he's now adopted it, which is quite nice. Thanks, Dave. And he's sadly not. So that is a big reveal later on. I assume at Essen, I think, this year, but we'll have to see.
Well, this is interesting actually because we spoke to Board and Dice, who will be publishing this game, and they were all very hush-hush about, this game's coming, it's going to be really heavy, it's going to be right up your street, you're going to really love it, it's like, combination of brass and barrage, but we're going to keep stubborn. And David Church is going, yes, I've made this game. So, I mean, we were told not to say too much based on what they said in Board
He's
Price,
rightly proud of
but
it.
on the basis that David has told us, we're going to talk about it.
Well, that's as much as we're going to say.
That's as much as we know, to be fair.
That is the end of our knowledge.
I have played it, so I know it's very good, but I can't tell you anything about it. I have promised not to.
So let's move on and talk about something we can talk about.
Yes, well, I shall refer back to the thing what I bought 2 years ago, at least mentally, was the Emperor Arenath from Cerberus Studios, that whacking great miniature from Celestial Affinity, because I've been drooling over that for a couple of years, and I spoke to Ben over the weekend, and that Kickstarter is now live. It is doing
fully
well.
Funded.
It's made it's fully funded, and they're hitting stretch goals, so it is doing very, very well. But I got to the point where I actually went back to buy it on the Sunday, I think it was, and he'd reserved me one. He put a big sticker on it, reserved for Andy. I didn't ask him, but he just did it. So there you go. Thank you, Ben. But yes, I do strongly recommend Celestial Affinity if you like skirmish games. So there's a fair few coming out. Steve's already mentioned one, that's Apex Legends, but Celestial Affinity is another skirmish game. Obviously Shatterpoint is another one, so they seem to be hot shit at the moment, skirmish games.
Warhammer 10th edition.
Yeah.
Just to mention a minor one in the wings.
No one cares about that.
Are you sure?
There'll be gatekeepers all around that one to stop you playing it anyway, so it won't matter.
I don't care. Whilst on the subject of miniatures, I spent quite a lot of money and time at Blue Giant Studios, Atlantis Miniatures, the people what make the miniatures we've chosen. So unlike Steve, I did buy a big pile of miniatures. In fact, they're the only things I bought at the West. I bought no games. No games! Just lots and lots of miniatures. Yeah.
Bizarre.
I know. Elora bought one, which I played last night, but we'll talk about that in the next podcast. But yes, the miniatures I bought, I say miniatures, they're all quite massive. So a big Cyclops carrying a tree, an Etin, which is a really teeny tiny thing, huge. The brother of the Brewmaster I bought last year, which we all joked that looked like Sid doing his shopping, which I am still half tempted to paint.
You're going to paint a Waitrose bag in his hands, are you?
Yes. I'm going to take the barrel off and mould. Take the point out. Actually, no, leave the point in his hand because that's very on point. And take the barrel out and put a Waitrose shopping bag instead, moulded from Milliput or something. But I got that, and also a limited edition Warlock of Firetop Mountain. They've only made 400 of those. And I have it signed by Mr. Ian Livingstone. Sorry, is it Sir Ian Livingstone now?
I believe it is now.
It is, yes, Ian Livingstone. And what's his chops? His mate, Ian Jackson.
Steve Jackson.
Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone, that's it. Yes, that's him. His mate, Steve Jackson. So, yes, both signed by those. It's very nice. So I am looking forward to painting those once we've got all of the other stuff out of the road. But that's all I bought. Just miniatures. No games.
Did you buy any games, Rory?
I picked up a few games, yes.
Would you like to talk about any of them?
They're inconsequential.
One of the games I bought, and it's the game I've played lots of since I bought it, is Coraquest. And I bought this because Sid told me it was good. Sid sold it to me, said it's really good, you should check it out. And we've mentioned it briefly before on the podcast. So I went along to the Bright Eyes games, and I've already got most of their games. And picked up Coraquest and bought it home. And Logan and Marley, when they saw the games I bought, they were like, "Oh, I want to play this." And Logan was really interested in Beast and had a lot of fun playing with the Beast. And then I said, "Look at this one. Do you want to play this one with me? It's a kids game, Coraquest." And he has been raving about it. He's been late for school. He's been late going to bed. He's been late going back to his mom's house. He hasn't even wanted to leave my house, which was nice because he didn't want to go back to his mom's because he was having so much fun playing the best game in the world. And I sent you guys a little video about him swearing about how much he enjoys it. So yeah, I've been playing that a lot.
I could sense the pride in you when you sent that video. I sat. He's like me. He sat there beaming ear to ear. Thinking, that's it. That's my son.
That's it. That's my boy. I love it. And I was saying, what's really interesting is that Logan, as a 6-year-old boy, when we play other board games together, he gets really quite upset when he starts losing, starts accusing other players of cheating. But in this, he loves playing as the dungeon master, and when he knows that I've got low wounds as the adventurers, he starts spreading damage out because he doesn't want the game to end. He just wants to keep playing. He loves the game so much. He knows that if he wins, the game's over. So he gets to the point where he's stopping, which I think is really interesting behaviour. But I love it, and I love how passionate he is about it, and how he's passionate about a hobby that I'm passionate about, and it's really great quality time that we're spending together. So that's probably my best purchase from the expo. I would like to tell you about my funniest moment at the expo, though, if I may.
You may.
I don't see why not.
Right, the funniest moment at the expo for me, and it's something I might have to start up, is the Best Insult Award. So I'm sat playing Coalitions with Andy.
I look bad in this. I'm not having this.
So I'm sat playing Coalitions with Andy and these two chaps, Rich and Theo. And at one point, Theo turns around to Andy and says, "I know I've only just met you, but you do seem like quite a belligerent person." And I just lost it. I just absolutely lost it.
Guilty. There not much I can say to that. I was like, well, he's got me nailed, hasn't he?
I mean, that's quite a judgy character, that.
It was brilliant.
It was good. I mean, the good thing about that was, I mean, not just because of the excellent character assassination from Theo. I think the fact that Theo and Dave were that kind of person, that they did have a bit of banter about them, it did make the game really fun. Because obviously it's a semi-co-op game, and it is all about negotiation and changing sides and working out what's best for your team. So we were trying to basically, at this point, trying to negotiate which side I should be on, I think, if I remember, because there was a point in the game where people had to basically choose a coalition.
Yeah, so it's a Napoleonic era war game with all the different factions in Europe. So it was the British Empire against France, basically. And Andy,
sorry, what was the name of this game again?
Coalitions from Phalanx Games.
Coalitions. Okay.
It was didn't quite make our preview list because we didn't get confirmation whether it was going to be there or not until quite late, until quite close to the expo itself. But Andy and I were dead keen to go try this out. So it's dudes on a map, war game, really straightforward, really nice deterministic fighting that was really clever. This almost semi-rondel action sequence thing that you're going through.
Yeah, it was kind of you remember the Wheel of Destiny that we played in that dungeon crawler, Steve, that we found a little dull?
Yes.
It's a bit like that.
It's more I'd say it's like a action programming game, almost, but the actions are already predetermined for all players in sequence.
Yeah, so like one person would move, then say red would move first, and they would and then blue would attack,
and then white would collect taxes, and then black would
and
do
then
this.
It would move around one, so then blue would move, and you could see what was coming.
You're going to do these 6 actions in this order for the rest of the game, and everyone's going to do it, and your start point is all different. So it was really good at deterministic. You could work out where you were going to be, and I think that was quite a clever thing with the game. And then you had this layer of negotiation over the top of that. How we got halfway through, after one complete rotation, it was a negotiation time. So the alliance between the British Empire, the countries involved in the British Empire at this point, all dissolved, and you had to restart it again. So this was France's opportunity to try and get some allies to defend their borders, and it was a really good, interesting conversation point in the game.
It really was, and France gained no allies.
And France gained no allies, and I went rogue.
Yes, you did. You decided to be. You were the belligerent one, not me.
I know, but no one ever expects me. No one ever expects me as the monster, the hidden traitor. Yeah. Coalitions though was a fantastic game, and it was one of those games we sat down for, and we played with 2 people.
About an hour, I think. Yeah.
And we sat and we played with 2 people that had a lot of banter. And they really got involved. And I don't know whether it's because Andy and I had banter with each other and that just spread out, or whether they were just blokes that just have a bit of a dig at each other. And that was really nice to see that. You don't get that with every game, so it's always really appreciated when you sit down with people and they want that social experience as well as just the game.
Very much so, yes. It did make the game a lot of fun. And I imagine it would probably work quite well between the 4 of us.
Sid, what did you get up to, mate?
Oh, I tell you what, I got up to loads. I just had a generally good time. I only had 2 days there. One of them I had the wife and the boy with me. And interestingly, it was on that day that I think I found the peak of my gaming of this year. Okay? Those of that have heard the live cast will know this, but it's still getting plays, this game. The 2 weeks afterwards, right? Stomp the plank.
I played that 5 times in a row on Sunday.
It's just absolutely superb. And the thing that caught me out by this game, right, is we're just walking past a shed. So it's Stomp the plank from a shed. And walking past, and Flavian is there, dressed is what looked like a mouse initially, I thought, right? He's in a grey suit with like a red stripy top on. He pauses, he stops me and goes, look at this. And he flicks this little hood up. And he's got an elephant's trunk on it. I was like, all right, what the hell's going on here? And he said, go and play that game there. So I went over to there's a little bit of fuss going on top of a barrel. There's a little box out, little planks, 4 planks put across the top of this board, and little elephant figurines standing on the end of these planks. And the entire game is about drawing not drawing the same card twice. So it's pure push to luck, simplest version of push to luck you can find. And if you get a pair, you have to move your elephant forward on the plank. If you manage to get to a point where you say, no, I'm going to stop now, you get to put number of barrels tokens on somebody else's plank to weigh the end of their plank down. That's it, right? It's as simple as that. If you can chance your luck and get 5 cards all different,
6.
you win. 6 cards, sorry. You can win. That's it. But the playability on this, even in the expo, I think, Rory, you joined me for a game there.
I did.
We started to draw a crowd. We were getting into this. It was getting quite exciting. People were stopping as they walked past to watch us play this game.
That's it. I mean, I took my kids to go see it on the Friday morning. I joined you for a game. My cousin came along with his kids, and they went and saw it. I bought a copy, and I took that home, and I had a bit of a family do on Sunday, and I played this game 5 times in a row, and there was only one child at the table playing. And it was just
was it you? Were you the child?
No, so brilliant game.
It's a fun game. It's just a really, really fun game. I mean, there was another game actually that seemed to draw a crowd, and I don't know if it's just the way we play that draws a crowd or not, but it drew a crowd.
The rich
and
and
that
the good.
was the rich and the good.
Ares games.
Yes.
As you say, Ares games. I'd love to describe. I don't know the words for how you would describe this as a proper game, but it was all about buying and trading commodities, essentially. I suppose the difference in the mechanic here was that, was it 2 rounds effectively you do with this game? And then you have to have given a certain amount of money to charity as part of the game, but you also had to have the most money. Is that right? Is that the right way around?
So whoever had the least donated to charity at the end lost and was eliminated from the game, regardless of how much money, what else they had. And then at that point, whoever had the most money was the winner. Now, the clever thing here is during the game, you can trade goods to make money, but your charity donations stay as goods until the cash out point.
Yes.
So you can never be 100% guarantee of how much you're going to be giving to charity at any one point.
And we were all in control to a large extent of how the commodities moved up or down in value, and when we were procuring or otherwise certain commodities.
Yeah, it's like when someone heavily invests in sugar, and gives it all to charity, and somebody then bombs the price of that commodity.
Bomb it out the next round. Yeah, it was a really, really fun game, and I think a lot of the fun came from the way we interacted around that table. Because the game is about that interaction. You've got some cards that are in these card holders, and you can't, although you can see your own cards, you can't actually select them. You've got to select one card from your left neighbour and one card from your right neighbour. And those are the cards that get played, and they manipulate this economic track across about 6 or 7 different goods. Really clever. And I think the first one you pick, you get the full value of that card, and then the second one you pick, you only take half of it, rounding up. It was really clever. I think there were some difficulties in the teach, I think would be fair to say.
Yeah, we were, because we had the rules close by, and we'd been taught wrong by the person who was teaching us. But the rules that they got wrong were very minor. They didn't affect how we played. And I think actually playing it with the full rules would make it even better.
Yeah.
So basically, we played 4-player, which, although the game apparently has got rules for like 2-player, it feels like 4-player is going to be a sweet spot for this game. In my opinion, this was a 4-player game. But the way you angle, you've got like a little bar which you put your cards on. The way the rules are written, you're supposed to angle it so that you can see 3 of them and not the 4th one. So you've got no idea what the 4th set of cards are. But we played with everything open, so everyone could see all the cards, which, because our memories are all crap,
didn't matter.
It didn't make any difference. But if someone had a really good memory, they could have influenced that a bit different. And there was a different way in which your goods was traded for the charities. That was just a really minor thing that was different.
Yeah.
But I don't think it made that much difference because in the end of the day, the real meat of this game is manipulating that market to make the money and make your charity things have a decent amount of money, whereas at the same time making sure that, Andy bought 2 coal last turn. Can I tank coal? Oh, I can. There's a -6 there on Sid Stamp.
Yeah.
There we go. That kind of thing. And then watching Andy swear at you profusely.
Yeah.
It did get quite charged. I think there was plenty of player interaction.
There was indeed, yep.
I had a small problem with it.
No, you didn't.
I think I did. I don't think there were enough negative cards. To me, it felt like there were too many positive cards. Now, admittedly, obviously, this is based on a single play. But to me, I don't think there were enough cards to bomb the market.
Were all the cards in play?
I don't know. It's possible that there was a big deck and there's a load and we just missed out on them. I don't know.
I don't think they're all in, but I should also point out that the market started at about a quarter up where the track could go. So I think you're right. I think the game is designed so it goes mostly up rather than down, which represents more people investing in things, isn't it?
Sure.
I can see where that comes from, but I can see your point. You wanted just a bit more spite.
Exactly. Yes. Just to really, really screw someone over. Right, we're just tanking coal completely. Because other than when everybody decided to get on Sid's tea buying, we really tanked tea. But within a turn, it was back up to where it was. So to me, it just felt like a bit of a wasted exercise. So it was still fun, and definitely the player interaction was excellent. It was a lot more interactive than, say, something like High Society. But of all the games that are involving in bidding and you have to be, not last to be able to stay in the game, so say High Society, QE, this, I think it's probably the weakest of those that I've played.
Okay.
It's interesting. I feel like I've had almost more interesting player interaction with it in that one game we have than I have in any of the other games that you just mentioned.
Oh, there's more player interaction, certainly.
And I enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that aspect of it. And it felt like we had more collective ability to screw each other over. So all it would take is one of us say, Andy dumped a load into coal last time. What do you reckon? We'll just tank that one over there.
But that relies on the cards being there to be able to tank it, and I think that was my problem with it. I don't think there were enough cards to be able to do that.
Maybe. I think what we're saying is it warrants another play.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
And that game went by so quickly. We were there for an hour, including the teach. And we had to stop and ask questions and wait for someone to be free to answer those. We played a very exciting game that drew a crowd because we were quite loud. And it was a really fun game to play in less than an hour. I think it'd be well worth it just for that.
Yes. Yes.
Do we know how much it would be?
I think she told us it was about, 25, 30 quid, something like that. It's not expensive.
It's an absolute steal for that.
The RRP's probably 40, but I suspect you could probably get it for maybe 30. I mean, there's not much to it. That's the thing. You got 4 sticks, a bunch of cards, and some paper money. That's it. It's not
refer the right honourable gentleman back to our conversation about Distilled.
Yes, well,
it has an RRP of $39.99.
Damn, I'm good.
So yes, offers are available from your retailer of choice.
There you go.
I can see it for £32 somewhere, including shipping.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That feels worth it to me. That feels worth it.
Well, Steve and I did a bit of star spotting whilst you lot
we did.
Yes.
Guys, I was there with you.
The WhatsApp message that confused the rest of us.
Yeah.
What?
So I was with Ussel, right?
Yeah, Sid and I were together when we got the message.
So we were together when I got a message, and it was just a picture of Rory and an old gentleman.
No, Andy and an old
Oh, sorry, it's Andy. It's Andy and an old gentleman. I was like, who's this guy? Who's with Andy? It must be important.
I think he's younger than I am, I think.
Well, he might be, but the point was he was taller than you and he was looking down on you in an elderly, sagely way.
Well, that is because he is a bit of an expert at what he does.
There was a bit of kind of, what's the word, glaze in your eyes. There was sort of
course.
In your eyes. So I'll leave it with you guys to explain why we were all so confused by this WhatsApp.
Can I also say that Amanda was with me when I met this individual, and Amanda's eyes were mostly rolling.
See,
gushing.
I barely got a word in edgeways because Laura was questioning them something fierce. I never got to ask a single bloody question.
Guys, go on. But, who are we talking about here?
This is now. Steve and I are, of course, talking about Sorastro, who it's actually Steve's fault. I'm aware of this man's work, but he is a fairly prolific now online video tutorial painter chap. He started many years ago with Zombicide and a few, how to paint, and he's gone through things like Imperial. It's actually his fault, and I blamed him to his face, nicely, that it's his fault I now own all of Imperial Assault, all of Lord of the Rings, because he's done full painting series on how to paint all of these miniatures. But he was at Expo promoting Shatterpoint, which is probably another reason Steve bought it. But he was there painting a lot of the scenery, and all of his miniatures were on display. And we had a really good chat with him. He's such a nice bloke. Now, they do say, never meet your heroes. But I am happy to say that I'm very glad I met Sorastro. He was a lovely bloke. I think his name's Mark. And he was really nice, really kind. We had a really good chat about painting and just, how enthusiastic people are about it. And just, I even complimented on his video's approachability, because it is one of the reasons I watched him. He really does make you feel like you can do the painting as well as he can. I mean, you won't be able to, but it does feel like that. But I got there first, and then I think 2 minutes later, Steve got in behind me and had a chat with him as well. Probably said the same things.
Yeah. I mean, I just said he was very nice, very humble, and really keen to offer advice on the painting as well. So I actually went over twice. Once he was talking to someone else, and I was watching what they were doing, and he was going through the masking and how to put put detail onto the buildings using masking in various colours, and then went on later and actually spoke to him. And of course, Amanda spoke to him quite a bit because he used to be a teacher.
Right.
So Amanda and him managed to speak about stuff. Felt a really nice bloke, and as I said, gushed over him a bit, so Amanda's eyes were rolling a bit.
Yeah, I got similar treatment. I was like, so who is he? And then he started talking, and then she criticised his voice. Oh, you don't sound anything like the videos. He's like, yes, I put that on a little bit, or he's less soothing or something. But then she said, yeah, I listen to you a lot of the time, but you're less dramatic. And I said, that's because he doesn't have, in real life, you don't have the interscene incidental music. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, no, she was quite starstruck as well, because she feels like she's met him through me watching the video tutorials in the same room.
As Amanda pointed out to him, he's currently my breakfast entertainment. So generally what I will do is because I get up a bit earlier than Amanda, I will go downstairs and eat breakfast and then watch a video, and 9 times out of 10 it appears to be a Sorastro video.
Yeah. Yeah,
I even managed to get Sid's YouTube feed inflicted with it once. I stayed the night at Sid's one day, and I was the only person up, and I was watching his videos on Sid's YouTube.
I mean, it's very fascinating. The only reason I didn't recognise him because all I could see is his hands. So even in the videos that I have seen, I was like, what chance have I got to understand what from this picture? There was no hand picture in there. I would have had a chance. I mean, his videos are... I can understand why you guys have such passion for the gentleman, because... It's unbelievable the stuff he can do with his,
That has given me a little idea, though. Guys, can you give me a list of the painting tutorial videos that you watch? And I'm going to put together a rose gallery of their hands. I'm going to see if you can identify them. But I don't know who they are, so you have to give me the list of them.
I have a question for Messrs. Tudor and Gill.
Yes, sir.
You have, and I do this out of curiosity because I've done this once before, and you guys have got it on your list now. The Detective Agency. Did you play it?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we had a quick go at the demo, yes.
Okay, what did you think? Because I played it, was that the last year or the year before?
Last year.
Must have been the last year, I think, because they're the massive stand there.
We had an interest. This was our Saturday morning Lost Lamb session, right?
Yes.
Me and Mr. Tudor were having a bit of a mooch around the halls on a Saturday morning after the podcast, not really sure what to do. It felt like the after an exam. We've done the exam, we've done the bit we had to do, and now we didn't know what to do with ourselves kind of moment. And we're just mooching around. And we came past this stall with the detective agency, and there was a spare table. There's a very nice lady on the desk, and she kind of said, come and play a game. So we sat down. And she said, this is like an escape room in a box. I said, okay, fair enough. We'll give it a punt. We kind of like that kind of jazz. But then she started saying stuff like, you'll need a phone. and you'll need to, phone people, like WhatsApp people or phone people or go on the internet. It's like, what? In a board game? Sure enough. So she gives us a tutorial box, and we open it up, and it's a bunch of letters and photographs and various things like that. But basically, you're trying to solve a murder. So there's a special demo murder especially for the expo. And you had to solve the murder. And we had a great 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We did, yeah.
We really enjoyed ourselves for 20 minutes. It was really good fun. And we had to open up letters, we had to solve the clues, work out the relevant information from the guff. And sure enough, through various places, we had to phone somebody at some point and get, there's a recorded message on the end of the phone call, and it gave us some information. We had to WhatsApp something to get some information. We had to email somebody. We had to get a website and log into it and access files and all that kind of stuff. And along with the physical stuff in front of us within the box, we had to put it all together and solve the murder. Really good game. I don't know what else I could say about it.
Yeah, I think it sounds like I did the same scenario or something similar last time, and I enjoyed it too. It's very, very clever, considering it kind of uses modern resources ultimately, and because these things come in, you can buy standalone ones, but they have series of them.
Yes, that's
There's
right.
about 4 or 5 series now.
That's 4 or 5 series and about 6 episodes, I think.
Yes,
episodes being a single kind of case.
Yeah,
within the series. Yeah,
yeah, and I'm very tempted to buy one, except for the fact they're like 120 quid.
Right. So now you get to the thing that Steve and I came to at the end of it all, which was we had a great time for a good 20 minutes or so. But could any of us see ourselves dropping 120 quid on it?
That's why I've not done it.
And also, the other problem with it being 120 quid was it was a one play.
Yes, it is. It's literally a one shot, and you can't do it again.
Could you not sell it on?
You could, yes.
You could
resell it.
Absolutely could. You could absolutely resell it. There is, but it is time. There is a time limit on it, because the things that you will need to play it have to remain in circulation for as long as you own it. Does that make sense?
No.
So like the phone numbers and the WhatsApp bots and all the websites and all that kind of stuff need to be maintained. So it's kind of the classic digital media. I think, was it last week we were talking about digital media and things like that?
Yeah, we were talking about the app-driven games in the live podcast.
It suffers that exact problem, but even more so. So it depends entirely on you being able to ring up that WhatsApp bot, and if for whatever reason they stop making games or choose to not support that anymore. Yeah.
She did say that the full game doesn't rely on that as much as the demo does.
She did say that. That's true.
Yeah,
but
you're right. It still was a part of it.
Yeah, and if that part of it stopped being there, it doesn't matter whether it relies on it. You surely can't finish the game.
Yeah, it was interesting because for that very point, the price point, I did wonder if they did split it up into the because the box contained 6 episodes or whatever it was. I do wonder if they'd split it up into you could buy episode 1, episode 2, episode 3 separately, where they would have a bit more. Whether more of us would have picked it up, maybe picked up like the first 2 episodes rather than
I'm not
the whole one.
Sure, I'm not sure I would have, because it would still be 10-15 quid a throw.
Yeah, but see, I think that's palatable because like there's the exit games.
True,
they're 10 to 15 quid a go, and you can't even sell them on.
True.
I've used that as my price break point because you can't sell an exit game. You have to cut it up, you have to rip it up, you have to fold it and bend it and all sorts and write on it. So they're a one-shot thing, and I think they're usually about 15 quid, but every so often they're in like Lidl for a tenner or maybe even a little bit less. That's what usually when we get them. But yeah, I thought if you got to do a couple episodes, maybe 10, 15 quid each, I would have bought 1 or 2 because I know 6 episodes, I'm going to struggle to get anything past like episode 2 or 3. We've mentioned, this is called the Detective Agency. We've mentioned Detective before. The Ignacy Trevicek game, Portal Games. I think I've done maybe the first mystery from that, and I really enjoy it. But I haven't found the time to go do the other one because that's an entire evening. One of those games is.
Is it not the Detective Society, not the Detective Agency?
But you're right. If it was 10, 15 quid a throw, and the 4 of us were going to play it, at least we could then spread the cost at the time we were going to play the next episode, as opposed to one of us dropping 120 quid, or even if, each of us dropping 40 quid a piece. It is an investment to go, and it's investment in time that we might not be able to do.
I think you make a very good point, actually, Steve. I hadn't really thought of it, but you're quite right. Is it 10, 15 quid? You'd punt it for when you have a few pals round for a dinner or something like that. Bit of post-dinner entertainment. But you're not going to drop 120 quid on that kind of adventure, are you?
No. If you spend 120 quid, you want to make sure you're going to get as much out of that as you can, really. Which is, it's just one of those things, I think, and maybe this is a wider conversation, maybe for a future episode, maybe put it in a questions, like self-question thing, but the whole concept of the board game industry loves a campaign game, and we think we like a campaign game, and then what happens is we don't play campaign games because we're playing other things.
Yeah,
and we have time.
We mentioned Fateforge earlier, and you, Rory, said, because you could play an episode that quite quick, maybe you could burn out 2 or 3 and then play something else in a session. And it's interesting to see that how much would we get through that, because us getting all 4 of us together around the table at the same time. It's actually quite tricky.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we've been having that chat, haven't we? Shortly after the expo, we talked about that, and it's just like the stars really do have to align for all 4 of us to be together.
Yeah. I mean, we've started to play Kingdom Death Monster, 3 of us, and I think it's been like 4 months since we last played a mission of that.
Yep.
So, yeah. And then let's just not talk about Pandemic Legacy.
Yes.
So yes, I really like the idea of it, but I wish they'd just break it down. If they broke that down to smaller chunks, maybe if they just half a one at 60 quid, I think I'd take a punt. 120 quid just seems a bit too much of a commitment. But from what we saw, it felt like a really good game.
Yes, it's really well
good
done.
Escape room. Yeah,
it was really well done, really well made, and as I say, I had a hell of a time, a good time playing it.
Now, I will mention the game that me and Sid then wandered over to. And this really was a case of we walked past the stand and somebody basically dragged us on and we had to go. So we had to go over a game called Conquest, which is a full-on rank and file miniatures game.
Ooh. Well, right. Sid did say he wanted to have a go at a miniatures game.
Did, yep. And I'm not going to speak for Sid entirely, but I do believe this isn't the one he would have liked to have tried if he chose it.
His face is painting 1,000 words right now.
I mean, yeah.
I do wonder how much of this was down to the demo. So basically what they had is a little demo table set up, and it must have been no more than a couple of feet by a couple of feet. And they had like 3 regiments on there, and there was 1 stat card. And the guy basically just took us all through it. So all we could really choose, if we choose which order, because you choose which order your units are going to activate in a little deck of cards, and you flip them over one at a time. And then he was saying, well, they'll hit on a 2 or more, so you need to roll 2. It was less, wasn't it? You needed to lower the dice roll. Those hit on 2, so you need 2s. Those wound on 3s, so you need 3s. And I do wonder how much there was a problem with the demo, because it was such a tight board, and there was no real strategy involved, because what happens is everyone just charged forward and hit each other anyway. And me and Sid just left it just like, well, all we've done is thrown some dice at each other, and I don't think any of the decisions we made in that demo made any difference whatsoever.
Unfortunately, I think you're right. It did, however, remind me that there is something I like about skirmish games, and I felt kind of dirty after I admit that to myself. There is something nice about a tape measure and a template and all that kind of stuff that I kind of do want in my life again.
Well, there is Celestial Affinities on Kickstarter currently, Steve. Sid, just saying.
Yeah, but why would I buy a game that you've bought for me to play? That would just be stupid.
You could buy your own army and bring that instead.
I could just use one of the spare ones in the massive Kickstarter Deluxe box that you're buying.
Shut up.
Don't worry, Sid. I've got your back. Don't worry.
I reckon you got me covered, Tudor. Because also the other thing that you contaminated my YouTube feed with was terrain building and dioramas. So I know that you've got my back covered.
Actually, this is something Steve and I have struggled with. is finding a good video on how to build terrain on YouTube. If any of our listeners have any recommendations, they would be gratefully received.
Yes, indeed. Definitely. Going back to Conquest, I still like the idea of the game. I'd like to have a proper game of this, because it did look interesting. It's proper rank and file. There's some really cool factions, like this weird...
Well, there was dinosaurs.
There was dinosaurs, but that demo did not show off the game. It felt like it was on rails completely. We had no control over what was happening. So unfortunately, me and you both left it there going, well, there's not even any point looking at it.
It was a game. We played a game.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Now, I should mention a game that I did get roped into that Rory dragged me into. I think he should.
You're welcome.
Because this is, I think, our ace card for this podcast.
Yeah. I think it is.
Hermione,
we all walked
with all his connections, bumped into a prolific and well-known designer, and was invited to a game Sunday morning, and I extended that invite to Steve. So Steve, myself, sat down with Ignacy Chevicek, and we played the upcoming release from Portal Games, Imperial Miners, which was bloody good. Is the short version.
Talk about something else. Hush my mouth.
Well, maybe you should mention that next. But yes, Imperial Miners we played, and it was rather good.
It was rather good. It is this brilliant little quick-paced engine builder, tableau builder, where you are building a mine, digging a mine. Over the course of 10 rounds, you're going to place a card for level 1, and for level 2 and level 3 over each other in this pyramid. And the really neat thing about this game is when you place a card, it's going to activate every card above it in a chain. So you really want to get your level 1s down, then get some level 2s, and you activate your level 2, and you're going to activate your level 1, then you're going to activate the surface. Your 3 is going to hit your 3, your 2, your 1, and your surface. It was this really clever little engine builder. And what was particularly nice about it is by the end of the game, what you've built is this quite complex engine, but you build it slowly over each round, so you've got complete control over how it builds. So although towards the end it's quite complex, getting there is really simple.
It sounds like Wingspan.
No, wash your mouth out.
I would say it's not unlike Wingspan.
Really?
In the way the engine building aspect of it works. Because you are building... But
it's vertical rather than horizontal.
Yes, that's really ridiculous. But yes, it's a very big difference. It's vertical rather than horizontal. But because you have to, you don't put the cards directly below each other. You stagger them.
Yeah, like a pyramid.
So the engine. Well, no, you did like a pyramid because you could spread out if you wanted to. If you were really stupid. But what it means is when you activate things, you could branch and go up a different route each time.
Okay.
So it wasn't necessarily going up the same engine every time. You could change that. You selected which card connected to that card above it activated.
Oh, that's clever.
And there's synergy, so certain cards would go like, well, if you've already got a card of this type,
if you had the barbarian suit or the whatever, they would work together.
Every different faction had its own little thing that worked with it. Yeah, so if you needed more cash because you thought things were going to buy, you need to buy things, you could try and go up the cash buying route. What was also that wasn't just the game. There was also a couple of tracks because it's a Euro game.
Yep.
We need tracks you have to go up. However, these were quite interesting because you could go up a track and then you'd go to the bottom of another track of your choice, and it wasn't like you got victory points based on where you were. You could pick up victory points as you went along based on where you landed, which was quite interesting.
Yeah, wherever you ended on that track. So if I move up 5 spaces because I've done something, I move up 5 spaces and I just get that reward at level 5. I miss out 1 through 4. Then when I reach the top, I just jump down and pick any one of the other 2 tracks and then start going up that one again. And there were 3 tracks, each double-sided, all different. So lots of replayability in that as well, I think there. We played it, including the demo, we played a 5-player game? 4-player game.
4-player game, because Ignacy was just running
the game. We played a 4-player game and it took less than an hour, and it had a nice little kick to it, nice little grind in the grey matter to get through this, to get this synergy. And I built this brilliant engine that didn't do anything towards victory points, but it was fantastic.
That sounds like one of the engines I built in Furnace.
It was great. I had cogs coming out my ears. Everything was kicking everything else off. It was awesome. But unfortunately, you don't need cogs to win. You need victory points, which was an oversight on my part. But
a small administrative oversight.
Yeah. Really, really good game. Really looking forward to seeing that when it comes out at Essen.
Nice.
And after that, I think it will do rather well. It's a brilliant, light game, and I think it's a great introduction into engine builders. I think this is going to...
Okay.
It's the same kind of complexity level as Wingspan as well. So it's not going to be... It's not a massive brain burner, but there's enough important decisions in there to keep you going, if that makes sense.
I learnt the other day, just on a Wingspan note, that there is on Board Game Geek, someone has done a Pokemon retheme of Wingspan, and you can download the whole thing, get it print and play, and it looks incredible. And I'm thinking that might be another option to get my son into playing more board games.
In other news,
go on then, Mr. Lewis. What game did you think we were going to talk about?
Well, before we get to that,
all right,
okay,
Mr.
I'm going
Dramatic.
to tease you. Yes, Mr. Dramatic, Mr. Likes a Story, Mr. Build-Up. I played a bit of a weird game, actually. Or rather, at least a bit of a weird themed game. Because, if you remember, we did the preview on Thursday night, and I walked away thinking, I've only seen one Euro game all night.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
You were right, yeah.
I maintain it was probably the only Euro, actually, it was the only one of 2 Euro games I played all weekend. The first one was Jersualem. A few of you might have seen it knocking about. It was on the Cosmos stand. And
now I'm disappointed. I was hoping this was going to be about Middle Englanders making like a roof appeal or a best roundabout floral display.
No, it was actually about the Last Supper. And Big JC holding, his final soiree before
the OG JC himself.
Yeah, the OG JC, his final soiree before he popped his clogs. And the idea of the game is basically that a bunch of families, of which you play one, are trying to get to the table, into the room, as close to him and his disciples as possible. The closer you put your little meeples, because it's basically a big grid with juice in the middle, and his disciples can be put around the table according to player actions, and we're going to go into how. And you score points according to how close to Jesus and his disciples you are. So there's like a row of meeples that you can put down behind each one. So it's like almost like a there's a grid, but obviously there's rows and columns. And the closer you are, costs you a bit more, but gets you more points at the end. And of course there is Judas as well, who is obviously the big bad, as it were. And he's also one of the disciples, and if he can be put down, but if you're behind him, then you lose points. So there are actions in the game that allow you to move the disciples around. So just because you put someone somewhere, don't mean they're going to be staying there. So there's a little bit of player interaction there. But basically, it's a bit along the lines of Dune Imperium, where you've kind of got, it's a deck builder, sort of, that allows you to do certain actions on the board. So, you'll play a card, which in Dune Imperium obviously allows you to go to certain spaces. In this, you basically play a card which has a sequence of basically icons on it, which give you either resources and or allow you to do an action at a particular space. So it's fairly straightforward in terms of Eurogame. I wouldn't say it's a particularly heavy game. I'd say it's medium at best. So it's not as heavy as it looks. But it's quite linear. Because ultimately all you're trying to do is do one thing to do another thing to do another thing to put a meeple next to Jesus. And then rinse and repeat. There are a couple of other things as well, because they've kind of thrown in quite a few biblical elements, like telling of fables, and there weren't fables, there was something else, and I can't remember what they're called. Parables. Is it parables? So basically, it's another way to gain points, basically. But in terms of games go, it was okay. But it was quite disappointing, and it's a very odd theme. I'm not going to lie.
It's quite unique theme.
It's a very unique theme, yes. I saw a few questions about it on one of the Facebook groups a couple of days ago, basically saying that, is it offensive, or words to that effect? Is it going to put people off who are like super religious, or does it portray, the stories in a good light? And the best answer I saw was, well, it's fine, you know, as a non-religious person, I can't see anything here that would put you off. You know, there's nothing here that's badly portrayed or done in an insensitive way, or words to that effect. And that's true, I would agree with that. I mean, I'm not, you know, massive on the Bible, though I have read it, but it seems to be fairly sympathetic. I have read it, believe it or not. It is fairly sympathetic to that story. You know, the Last Supper, folk going in, saying hello to Jesus, him holding his little party, and all of the disciples around the table. So it is, again, what I played. That is all I'm going to say about it. I think the theme was slightly bizarre, and I think I can see that putting people off, and myself included. But I've played it because I thought, you know, I'll give it a chance. But it could probably be reskinned into something else quite straightforwardly, and you'd probably have something similar with a similar idea. So it was okay. It was all right. But nothing special, I think, is the way I would walk away from that. Speaking of that as well, next door to Cosmos was Q Games, or Queen Games. And I got to play Marrakesh, which is a Stefan Feld game, Mr. Summers.
I know, missed that one. I've heard some very good things about it.
You'd like it, I think. Because you like Bonfire a lot, and I have to say I prefer Marrakesh to Bonfire. It's very Stefan Feld. There's lots of things you can do. You won't be able to do them all. One thing feels another thing. You have to think 57 turns ahead and in 5 different dimensions in order to get these things done. So it's basically, there's a combination of meeples. What the hell is it called? You pick resources, you throw them into a little, essentially a dice tower, but some of the resources, these cubes that these caches, they're basically called, hence the term Marrakesh, completely made up word, and they stay in this little tower, but ultimately on people's turns, you choose a group of the ones that come at the bottom. So you've got different colours of these things, you can choose one colour. So that might be like 3 oranges and 1 blue, so you could take up to 2 of one colour, so you could take 2 oranges, and you put them on your board, and they would unlock certain abilities on that board, at which point you can activate that ability with a meeple. I think you've got 3. So the idea is, obviously, you've got to pair your choosing of the colours with activating with a meeple to get the best out of your board. But it's not always possible because turn order matters, and it changes every turn. Someone could rob the colour of cash that you want, so you're activating something that does call, which I found quite frustrating. But we did only play, you know, like 1 round of it, basically, a couple of rounds of it. It was quite tight in terms of mechanic, and I can see that a couple of playthroughs would be actually quite interesting, but it's quite hard. And I suspect that if you make 1 mistake, your game is over, which I would suggest is quite unforgiving. It was also bloody expensive.
Really?
Yeah. I thought it was extremely expensive for what it was.
There
are 2 versions of it, though. There's like a deluxe version of it and a slightly less deluxe version of it. But I found it, I think if I remember rightly, it's about 80 odd quid. And that's for the non-deluxe version, if I remember rightly. But someone please correct me on that. I don't know exactly. My memory is failing me. But yes, I played Marrakesh as well. Alora basically booked us into that because she wanted to play it, because she was dead keen on it. And we both walked away and go, yeah, it's all right. But then again, we felt the same way about Bonfire. So if you're a Stefan Feld fan, you'd probably find it to be quite good.
All right. I will give that a look.
I think you will like it a lot. And that brings me to the final game. What we all played, apart from Sid, who wasn't there. And I
was getting the tea.
This is the game that what I thought you were going to say was the highlight for us all, because we all walked away thinking, yeah, this is our highlight of the show. Was the game Beast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I'm really annoyed at you lot for playing this on the Sunday.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because Rory bigged this up to me in the preview. I wanted to play it, and we tried to play it, and on the Friday and the Saturday, and couldn't get in, and you bastards got in on the Sunday.
We did play it, yeah, because we're dedicated professionals.
Well, since Sid...
I'm gonna mute my mic now in a protest that's going to be irrelevant because I'm the YTS kid.
Well, since we've just arranged a meeting of the children to play Coraquest, we can set them up at one end of the table, and we can play 2-player Beast at the other.
2-player Beast?
I like the cut of your jib.
Yeah. It might mean that Sid or one of us would have to double hand 2 heroes, but there are some scenarios where you can play 1 hunter, 1 beast.
Yeah, alternative, you could just get one of these other 2 jokers to turn up and help us out.
Yeah.
Maybe both of them.
I don't think we should turn up, Steve, because we just haven't been invited. You see that spiteful invitation we were given there.
The YTS don't want to invite the management down, do we? We don't want them coming up and ruining our day out.
Anyway.
Yeah, we played a shortened version of the game, so I think we played
1 day.
Basically one day. And is it 3 days? Is it a full game? Or is it 2
depends
days?
on the scenario, but so far most of them are 3 days.
So this game there is a beast, the titular beast, which is a variety of different gribblies this could be, ranging from something as simple as what we played here, which was a giant wolf, to some really freaky peacock thing with masks
really
on
cool
the tentacles.
beasts.
And the artwork is amazing. I mean, I did point out at the time, it struck me as very Dark Souls-like. Although we were playing the game with the artist, and I don't think he got that reference, which was interesting because that means that's just his imagination.
Which is both interesting and very worrying.
Yes. So it's a hidden movement game where the beast is kind of, I'm going to say semi-hidden. Because basically, whenever the beast does something, the beast reveals its location.
I thought we'd agreed to call this a transparent. What do we call it?
Translucent movement.
Translucent
movement.
So the beast will do something, and then it will go basically into hiding. It will move, and there are certain move cards. You'll play cards. The beast plays cards to move. They go down in the stack, so we know where it goes. And I believe we played like an advanced map, but in the normal game you also have a copy of the map, so you can keep track of where you are.
We played a map from the upcoming expansion.
The way in which this game really works, it's got a card drafting system which is very similar to Blood Rage. I thought that was my immediate thought, where you're going to have a hand of cards, which you're going to go around picking cards, and you hand the cards just to you and the beast. So there's a bit of teamwork and a bit of hate drafting has to go on, where me and Rory were playing as the hunters. Hate drafting, yeah. Where me and Rory had to decide which cards we wanted and had to work out which cards we did not want to give to Andy as the beast, and Andy obviously had to think the same way. To play the cards in your turn, when it comes to your turn, you can play 1 or 2 of the cards, but if you play 2 of the cards, they have to be 2 different colours. So there's an orange card and a blue card. I'm going to let Andy describe something about the cards in a minute, but that means that you didn't have to. If you're optimised, of course, you get to do 2 actions. If you've got a hand of dross because you haven't been very good at picking the draft, you'll only get to do 1 action at a time. So as the hunter's got objectives. I believe you've got to kill villagers and livestock and things like that.
Again, depends on the scenario.
And as the hunters, we have to find this wolf or beastie or whatever it is and kick its ass. Mm-hmm. I thoroughly enjoyed this game. I wanted to carry on playing and was really annoyed when they said, no, right, that's it. That's end of the first night. We're going to stop.
But I'm about to murder a villager and get away with it. Because these inept hunters are useless.
I felt the balance was really good. Yeah. Because I felt we were struggling to catch up with you, though we were never far away from where Andy's beast was. We were struggling to pinpoint you or corner you. And I found it fascinating that you thought at the time that the beast was revealing himself too much.
Yes, I thought it was a little too often.
Yeah, you thought it was too often. We thought you weren't revealing enough, which makes me think this game is brilliantly balanced because you always think that you are having a hard time, regardless of which side you're on.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think that's a really good point.
I've for the last couple of minutes, literally, I have just been thinking, do you know what? Actually, I do agree with you, Steve, and I think it's a good thing because it keeps both parties on their toes. Because in something like Fury of Dracula, where there's almost no revelation, Dracula can get a little complacent and just basically park up, have a sandwich, and just watch the hunters arse around and not find him for ages. Whereas in this, you do not get that luxury. Because if you are not clever with what you do and where you go, then you could end up 1, 2, or 3 spaces behind where you should be.
Yeah.
And you will be given, essentially, almost giving the game away.
Well, the beast is incentivized to reveal himself, to kill the animals that are in the forests in across the land, because they give you those grudge coins which make you more powerful.
Yes.
And they are really, really good for the beast, and they're far easier for the beast to acquire, because the beast in a straight up confrontation with 2 or 3 hunters will lose. Because as the game progresses, you are going to become more powerful, but in theory our net is going to get tighter.
Yes.
like it's a lot harder for the hunters to upgrade. It's quite hard for us to gain grudge coins, and we have to spend them on things like traps, which are really powerful. Or we can upgrade our abilities. Like we have these little pegs, and you have put them in the die cut board. So my character is now a bit cooler than he was when he started, but it's at quite an expense to do that. The beast can rocket up and get loads of these. And I think that keeps the balance as the game progresses. As you start killing more stuff, gaining more grudge coins, you become more powerful, and we're getting closer to you. We're restricting your movement. And I think that balance is just right.
I'm inclined to agree, yes, having played the Beast. Yes, I mean, getting a couple of those powers, like being... By default, I have to reveal myself and basically park up when I murder a sheep, whereas one of my powers basically allowed me to murder a sheep and run away straight away.
Yeah.
Which is extremely powerful and extremely useful. Yeah, exactly. And also, I have little minions I could summon, which essentially just start murdering sheep for me. And I could essentially synchronize, or what's the word, synergize, there you go, like a power I'd unlocked as well. I could... Every time one of my minions moved or murdered a sheep, I could run and hide. So I could get my minion to do something, run 2 spaces, murder a sheep, and then I would get to, like, basically run away from you two. So as long as I got that synergy going, I would be okay. I would still get more powerful. But again, as you said, the net is always pretty tight. I mean, you were never more than 2 spaces behind me, often just 1.
Mm-hmm. And it was interesting what you said about the cards. And then, I mean, there was a problem that Andy's going to come to, because I think it's your prerogative to do so. But we talked about having, when you play a card, I like to think of it as like a yin and a yang. Each card is half an action. So you play a red one, and then you play a blue one. If you stack your hand, if you've given yourself loads of blue cards, you're only doing one action, half an action a turn, which in some ways can actually be quite good, because it means I'm going to have more turns. If you play 2 cards every round, but I'm only playing 1, I'm going to continue taking turns after the beast has done his kill and stopped because you've run out of cards. I can now just hunt you down if I'm clever in how I use those cards. So it works in both ways depending on what strategy you're going for. I think there's a lot of scope within this game for a lot of replays and for a lot of tactics to be built up as both the beast or beasts. You know, as you get to master 1, you can move on to the next one, and as the hunters. And again, there's loads of hunters in the deck as well. I do think the sweet spot for this game is 3 players. I played a 4-player game of it, and I think it was very hard for the beast to do anything against 3 hunters.
Does the beast scale with the number of players or not?
Beast doesn't change at all.
See, that seems a little silly, because either you should cripple the hunters somehow, or always have a fixed number of hunters, like you do if you have Dracula.
The scenarios change, though. So in a 4-player game, you pick a 4-player scenario. So in theory, the scenario is easier for the beast.
Right, okay.
But I don't think... The one we played was very hard. But I also think I made some really big mistakes as the beast. I just made a catastrophic mistake as the beast very early into day 1, and I paid for it for the rest of the game. I painted myself into a corner. I gave away my location while I was hidden too early, and then couldn't move without revealing myself, and then I just got myself trapped. That's user error.
Well, I got into a bit of a fit of almost rage when I was using these cards, because, as Steve has said, there are different colours on these cards. It's essentially a red action or a blue action. But instead of just having a red circle or a blue circle, because that would have made sense, the action circles were broken up into half a red and half a blue, and the other half was grey.
Like a yin-yang.
Yeah, but no, because yin and yang's just black and white. It doesn't have this stupid, unnecessary third colour. And the blue and the grey look really similar, at least they do to my dog eyes. So I was really confused as to, well, what colour's that? That's blue. No, Andy, that's blue. That's red. It didn't make any sense. There was this third colour was completely unnecessary. It didn't add anything. It just made things more confusing. Because if you're just going to play a blue action, just play a blue blobby, just make a blue blob on the card. Why have this half-third blob? It didn't make any sense to me.
It was one of those things where if you've got non-colour blindness, it made perfect sense because the grey was the other action greyed out.
Yes.
So as Roy says, we're young, but I mean, we wouldn't have spotted that without someone colourblind saying that. It just looked like, oh, that's the greyed out action. And then there was a subtle difference in the artwork between the blue and the orange,
and that's what Andy had to rely on.
Yeah, but it was a subtle difference. It was like I was looking at it thinking, if you can't see the difference in those colours need changing, basically. Yeah.
Yes.
So, but that was about my only criticism. I want to play a full game though. That we only played this one night. I'd like to really play a full game, as you said. I'd like to play a few games now just to poke at it and see if this is an issue of different beasts and different.
Very much so. Yes.
Yeah.
I think as you've alluded to, Rory, I think it would reward multiple plays because your tactics would improve. You'd try different things. You know, you'd work with different hunters. I've seen some comments. Admittedly, those comments are very naive and based on minimal playthrough of the game, like we have. That some of the hunters are better than others. We don't know if that's true, of course. Obviously, playing with multiple hunters would obviously be good.
Do you know
as well,
what?
so
I reckon some of the beasts are better than others as well. I reckon there might be. Hear me out here, guys. I reckon they might all be a little bit different. Just saying.
Do you think?
just saying. I think
wolves.
The designers might have added. Bear with me. Variety into the game.
Surely not.
Somebody mute his mic. He's talking madness.
Yes, go home, Rory. You're drunk.
How dare they do
I
such
know.
a thing?
But in short, we bloody loved it. We all walked away going, yeah, that's pretty much our game of the show.
Yeah. And annoyingly, they'd sold out at that point.
I know. But there is a crowdfunder later this year to do the expansion that Rory
Shattered
mentioned.
Isles,
We played. There you go. We played that expansion map. It's probably going to undergo some tweaks between now and then, I'm sure. But that Kickstarter is hitting later this year. I don't know when. Presumably probably Q3. But yeah, who knows? Keep an eye out for it if you're interested in those games. We all really enjoyed it. We saw it at the preview and obviously played it as well. And there's some really lovely acrylic standees that you can get, which I think are only part of the crowdfunding.
I think they might only be part of the expansion. I think
they've checked. Oh, really? Okay.
I could be wrong.
Well,
either way,
we'll know when the crowdfunding kicks
in. I'm fairly sure that they are part of the crowdfunding. So if you haven't got them now, or if you just bought the base box and you want those acrylic things, I'm fairly sure, like 99%, that you should be able to get them as part of the crowdfunding program in one form or other. And they were very pretty. It's obviously just bling, but still, it's nice bling, and it does make the game look quite nice and pretty, and it works. It's not silly bling; it's actually quite useful bling. But we all really enjoyed Beast.
3 of you enjoyed Beast. Let's just keep the record straight here.
You'd enjoy Beast.
Yeah, you would.
I know I would enjoy Beast, but I haven't yet had the chance to enjoy Beast. So don't rub salt to the wounds. We'll have to sort that out. We'll have to sort that out because I really want to play this.
Right, I think that'll do us for today. Thank you very much for listening. We have been Polyhedron Collider. If you can give us a review on your podcast platform of choice and share us with your friends, we'd much appreciate it. You can find us all over the internet, Facebook, Twitter. Just look for Polyhedron Collider or go to Board Game Geek Guild 2726. We'll be returning to normality soon, and until then, happy gaming.
Tatty bye.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.